Hey friends, Caleb Townsend, co-founder of Factor here. I'm here to talk about getting your sales house in order. The basic concept here is that a lot of companies put investment into sales and marketing efforts that don't really solve the main problem that they have. Today is about doing a self-diagnosis and figuring out what is the actual problem you have in your sales and marketing efforts, identifying that problem and coming up with solutions to remove that option. I like to look at sales a lot like a production line in a manufacturing facility. You have raw material going in one door, finished goods going out the other door. In sales, you have data going in one door, and the other door you have profitable customers going out. Quick discussion internally. How many of you have read the book The Goal, and what is the book The Goal about? The Goal is about the theory of constraints. It's kind of a silly story in that the guy who wrote the book was trying to save his plant and trying to save his marriage at the same time. So I highly recommend salespeople in industrial manufacturing sales to check this out. The theory of constraints is really just a fancy word of saying bottlenecks. And when you are in a plant and you fix a bottleneck as part of the manufacturing process, the next thing that pops up is another bottleneck, and it's the same way in sales. Here are just a couple examples in sales that we hear that people share, that they're going to invest a bunch of marketing, but they don't have a good database system. So the more leads that get put in, they don't have a really good way to capture and harness and segment those leads. Quote, we're turning our outside salespeople loose, but the website's crazy out of date, so the salespeople are going to be doing their job, and then when prospects go to the website, they're going to be turned off by working with that company. Or one here at the bottom is, when are salespeople be better at closing, but they spend most time getting pricing put together, so the salespeople don't even have time to close. As we look through the sales process, we're going to look from all the front end part of the sales process in terms of building out your database all the way to closing. Let's talk about building your database first. Ideally, you would know every single possible prospect in your territory or effective radius. So now would be a good time to pause the video and talk about what does your database look like? Do you know every possible prospect in your territory or effective radius? Once you know every person in the territory or effective radius, ideally you'd know all the decision makers at those companies. Lastly, part of building out your database would be to prioritize. The best way to do this is to look at your existing customer base and identify what are the attributes that your existing customers have that makes them a good customer. And hopefully this will give you an indicator of the types of companies in your database, the prospects that aren't customers yet, who would be good customers. Everyone's going to have their own criteria. Here's just one way to rank. Up here in the columns we have volume, size, payment terms, decision made locally, cross-selling opportunities, distance from the plant, and then assigning a point value to all of those and going through prospects and giving them a value for how they represent volume/size. This is a completely fictitious example, but it's just something we put together just to show you what prioritizing a database might look like. What are some mistakes that are made in the data part of the sales process? First is driving through territory, writing down prospects. And I don't mean to offend anybody. I've talked to people as members of Factor who spend time doing this. Now, if you're out in your territory or effective radius and you see potential prospects, absolutely it's okay to write those down. But I talk to people that this is how they build out their databases, going through industrial parks of small towns in Ohio, trying to figure out who they should be calling on. The internet exists, you should not be doing this. Other mistake I see is companies not equipping their sales team with account and contact data. Salespeople should be doing just that. They should not be professional researchers. They should be salespeople where they are out there calling on companies trying to close them. Here's some tools that we've used at Factor to leverage. One is the local library has Reference USA. It's free to use with the local library card. You can access it online, so you don't have to go into the library. You can export CSV files, but I've also found this data to be a little out of date. You can purchase lists from companies like Hoover's or Dun & Bradstreet. You can use LinkedIn This would take a lot more manual process, but LinkedIn is a great tool. And then Zoom Info. We've used Zoom Info a lot for contact level data. It's pretty good for that. It gets you direct dials so you can save time on phone trees. The Contact Out Chrome extension. When you are on a LinkedIn profile, you can use the Contact Out Chrome extension to get email addresses. Check out the Contact Out Chrome extension. Lastly, we have the Factor Contact Research tool, which is on our website. As you know, we do the data research for you up to 5 companies a month. So you submit companies you want us to research, we will do the contact research at those companies. Use our research tool. Now let's talk about all the way from the first contact to PO. And this is where you've identified the prospect and looking to get in the door. What's step 1? Leverage relationships. This is where Factor comes in. It'll use LinkedIn contacts. I know some of you guys do this. I do it less frequently than I used to just because of the volume of people, the quality of people that people are connected to. It seems to have gone down, and more specifically, it seems that people are connected to a lot of people they don't know on LinkedIn anymore. That still makes it a good platform. It's just its purpose have to kind of change. Hang out where they hang out. What trade shows do they go to? What events are they going to be at? There are things like Society of Quality Engineers, and there are trade shows for facility managers, and there are places that your demographic are hanging out. Food and beverage summits. If leveraging relationships don't get in the door, there is something called account-based marketing. Did you know that you can run email campaigns or ad campaigns to a specific industry, a list of company names, or a list of email addresses? Yes, you can do a campaign just for a list of email addresses out of your database. Lastly, still got a cold prospect. And cold prospecting may feel inefficient at times, but it still works. What are mistakes we see people make? First, going right to that third step. Identify a prospect, they go right to the cold call. And then another mistake is not doing the third step. There's always an exception to this, but for the most part, you should try and leverage your relationships, use some type of marketing tactic, and then pick up the phone. Now that you have qualified opportunities, we're going to lump in the whole sales process, first contact to PO. Just look at a couple mistakes that people make. People preparing quotes. Let's pause the video and talk about if you prepare quotes for your own company. Regrouping here, other mistakes people make. Technical people doing relational things and relational people doing technical things. There's exceptions to this rule too as well, but you can all read that and know what I'm talking about. Next is not looking at your closing percentage. A lot of companies don't look at their closing percentage, and they may be not understanding how their sales process works. What is a good, healthy closing percentage for you at your company? Lastly is just equipping salespeople for follow-up. You should all have a good CRM that is built out, that you use, that greatly increases your effectiveness at follow-up. Couple last thoughts. Account management. A lot of people make mistakes in the account management by not cross-selling. Leverage your existing customers. It's a lot easier to sell an existing customer than a new one. Also, keeping PITA clients. I'm sure you can all define what I mean by PITA client. A lot of companies keep PITA clients. They're just wasting their money. A lot of salespeople don't communicate to their companies how much time a PITA client may take of their time. Wrapping up, what other constraints or bottlenecks do you see in your sales process, or what other constraints or bottlenecks have you had in your sales process in the past that you have fixed? Hopefully you got a nugget or two. Appreciate your time. Make it happen.